What is up, guys? Welcome. What's up, Shatterpoint? What's up, Sam? What's up, Cheesy Isaac? What's up, HM Gator, LMCFC, Sam Thomas, Shatterpoint, Iced Coffee, Sam Thomas, John Poole, HM Gator. I already said hi to you. Hi, Damien. Hi, CJ For Real. Hi, Clint. Hi, Prov. Hi, Twitter Sucks. I like your name. I like Kid. Hi, ZZ, Sarah. Hi, Finn. Welcome, everybody, and thank you all for tuning in. Corey's in here, Noah's in here, Silver Surge, Matter18, Noah, Aiden, Ducky, Day, Clint, Turner Jenkins, Eimer Gaming. Be sure to like the stream as you join in here. We already have 70 viewers. Thank you guys for tuning in. Let's try to get to a couple hundred here, boost the numbers up. Be sure to like the stream. Also, in the top, you can see most recent Super Chat if you want to support this stream. You can ask any question you want. We are going to have a Q&A segment. We're just going to be going over our thoughts on DC FanDome 2021, Gotham Knights, Justice League killed the Suicide Squad killed the Justice League, and also all the films coming down the pipeline, Shazam 2 and many others, The Flash. And if you want to be a part of the Q&A or you have a comment you'd like to share with the whole stream that we'll discuss, then please send it in via Super Chat. Super Chats go to the front of the line on the streams. I'm here with Theresa. Theresa has her own YouTube channel. She also is a short film director, and also Jacob Airey. Jacob Airey runs Studio Jake M Enterprises. Thank you for the $2. How are we doing today, guys?
Doing good.
I'm doing good.
Thank you for coming on. So we're going to be talking about DC FanDome 2021 today. Obviously, this is the second inaugural DC FanDome. I thought the first one was really cool. What did you guys think about the first DC FanDome? And are you looking forward to the second one? Hopefully, the answer is yes, because everybody here is very excited. But I assume that you guys are.
Yes. Last year, actually, I had to work all day during DC FanDome. I only came on like at the tail end of it. I think when they were just doing the Batman trailer, so I got to be involved in that. But otherwise, I was like, getting my 10 at work and like, oh, what happened? What trailer came out? What's going on? And like, they'd have a new trailer out, and I'd be like behind of everyone. I'm like, oh, I missed that, and I'd be like, when's my 10 coming? When's my next 10 coming? So that was my last DC FanDome, and I didn't really know what to expect the last one, but. We kind of got our run through last year, and so we have a little bit more of an understanding of how it works and what kinds of things they show. So yeah.
And Jacob,
well, it was actually the FanDome was actually on my birthday last year, so I actually watched the whole
22nd, August 22nd.
Yeah, August 22nd. So I got to watch it for my birthday, which was awesome because I'm a huge DC fan, and I really liked it. I thought it was good. One thing that was for sure was I was always kind of hesitant about some of the projects, like the Batman. Me being a huge Batman fan, I'm always skeptical of a Batman property
we'll talk about
the trailer comes out. But I loved that trailer, the FanDome trailer. I thought it was really good, and I really liked the introduction for Kill the Justice League. Probably though the highlight was the Black Adam segment. I really enjoyed that. That was probably my favorite. You just can't go wrong with Dwayne Johnson introducing anything, and he really hyped it up. I love all the test art. And for this year, I have to admit I'm cautiously optimistic because we'll get like a trailer for Shazam: Fury of the Gods and for Black Adam, and hopefully we'll hear a possible Superman Black Adam crossover. But a lot of good DC talent also left this year and this past year, so I'm curious where they're going to go as far as the comic books. Like films and video games, I think we're going to get some good announcements, but for the comic books, with James Tynion stepping away from Batman and going on to Substack, with Scott Snyder leaving DC Comics after Death Metal and him starting his own imprint, I'm really curious where they're going to go as far as the comic books are concerned, but otherwise I am looking forward to it.
Yeah, with the first DC FanDome, obviously I knew that Gotham Knights was going to be there, which is a game that I've been covering on my channel for years now. Actually, I was covering the game before it even existed, essentially. And my friend sent me a letter and was like, hey, I'm getting married on August 22nd. I want you to be in the wedding. And so I was in South Carolina, actually, the day of the first DC FanDome. I didn't see a second of it. The only thing that I did see is 30 minutes before he got married, I did go into the bathroom and watch the Gotham Knights trailer just before the wedding. So I did see that kind of live, I guess, but that was pretty much my exposure to the first DC FanDome. So I did mark the date. If anybody's getting married, I'm not going to be there this time. It's just me watching DC FanDome. So no, I am really, really excited for this. To your point, Jacob, I think it's interesting that the first DC FanDome tended to be pretty heavily weighted towards the video games and films. I think that there were some comics announcements, don't get me wrong, but it does seem that these big events, whether it be San Diego Comic-Con or whether it be E3, like E3 to a lesser extent, more San Diego Comic-Con, it does seem that comic books are taking more and more of a backseat, which is a shame because Comic-Con is in the name. So you would hope that they would talk more about comic books. And of course, these characters all were created in comic books. They're comic book characters fundamentally. So you would hope to see a little bit more from the comic book side at these events. And I do understand that they're commercial events, right? Like the video games pull a lot of weight, as do the movies. And I know that that's what people are most excited for. But to your point, I do hope that we actually see some more from the comic book side, because since Rebirth launched in 2016, I have noticed a little bit of a decline in terms of DC's comic line. You know, Rebirth was really, really good. Even the New 52, even if it wasn't perfect, at least there was a bump in terms of sales and fan enthusiasm and all of this. And I do think we're long overdue for some sort of soft reboot. Now, I know that's controversial to tell any comic book fan that there should be a reboot. We're always clamoring for fewer reboots. But at this point,
I would agree with him. I would completely agree. I have been waiting for like a hardcore DC reboot for a long time, because and then they kind of, with Infinite Frontier, it was kind of a reboot, and then it wasn't, and then it wasn't at all. So I've been just like complete like start over, like make a new Batman #1 with like I do like I've seen like mixed things about, is it Joshua Williamson who's taking over the Batman comic now?
Yeah, he used to write for the Flash.
Yeah, so people are saying that they really like his Superman, but they thought his Flash just didn't have enough to talk about. So I'm curious to what goes on. I feel like, though, we might not be at a point where they're like, okay, let's really focus on the comics and bring that back. I feel like they're just more focused on the video games and the movies. So that's why we'll see what happens. I'm not holding. I would like to see like more of a restructuring of the comics, because I haven't been very happy with them lately, but I feel like they're just going to be more focused on the video games and movies and stuff. And HBO Max especially, they're going to be really pushing anything on there. So yeah, that's and I want to say, you said Gotham Knights. That was my favorite thing that came out last year, the Gotham Knights trailer, and I've been waiting for it to come out, and I keep waiting and I keep waiting and I keep waiting, and nothing more comes out of it. So I really hope that there's finally more at this thing.
Yeah, me as well. Damien, thank you for becoming a member, guys. We do have a membership goal of 10 members. We're 4 out of 10 the way there. Thank you to the people who have become a member either during the pre-show or now. Be sure to become a member. It's $2 a month. You just click on my channel. You get exclusive chat emojis and badges as well. And like I said, at the top of the screen there, we do have a super chat train counter. If you'd like to send in a question or comment that for us to address, please send that in via Super Chat. Super Chat comments and questions go to the front of the line. Let's now sort of go through how I'd like to orient our discussion. So I think that we'll first start with the television side of things with the Batman, Shazam 2, Flash, and all of that. And then we can maybe talk about some of the television shows. And then from there, I think we can talk about the video games. So we'll talk about the video games at the very end. I know that with my audience in particular, that's probably what they're most excited to see. And Pravade, thank you for the 10 Canadian dollars. He asks, what's your most anticipated DC game? I like Gotham Knights, but I rewatched the trailer, and I'm worried about the gameplay, combat, but also the voice acting. It's also pretty generic, like the Avengers game. So I will say, Prav, I'm trying to decide if we should answer this now or wait for the Q&A. We'll answer this one, and then all the future super chats that we get in, we'll save for the Q&A segment of the show. So in terms of me personally, I do share your concern about Gotham Knights and the gameplay. The trick with Marvel's Avengers is that it was such a huge disaster that I think that they're going to take steps directly to avoid going down that route. And I do see a little bit of what you're saying with like the open world, sort of even some of the farming mechanics with the leveling system. That does concern me a little bit. So I'm with you on that. But what I will say is that they've been working on this game for many years. They know that they're following up with Batman Arkham Knight. And frankly, I don't have very many concerns that the game will not meet our expectations. Again, if Marvel's Avengers had not come out, then I would share that concern. But frankly, because of how that game was panned and lost hundreds of millions of dollars actually for multiple parties that were involved in the financing of the game, I do think that I have a lot of faith in W Montreal. I think that Batman Arkham Origins is wildly underrated actually, and I do think that they're going to address a number of the issues that they had with their first title as well, and improve upon those things. And this is more than a decade later after Batman Arkham Origins. So personally, Gotham Knights is my most anticipated video game, but I'm curious if Jacob or Teresa, if that answer for you is Suicide Squad or maybe some other unannounced game.
No, for me, it's still Gotham Knights. My only aggravation with it is they replaced Tim Drake with Damian Wayne, and Tim Drake is just, despite what they're doing to him in the comic books now, he's always been my favorite Robin. He was kind of the Robin.
Really, I didn't know that about you. Interesting.
Oh yeah, I grew up in the 90s and the 2000s. He was Robin.
Mm-hmm.
So especially in the comics, No Man's Land arc, Cataclysm arc. He was that. So he's always been my favorite Robin. That's one of the reasons I like Arkham Knight so much. I really like getting to interact with him and playing him briefly in the game. But I'm hoping that he'll be an unlockable character. So maybe if you beat the game with the other characters, then you can unlock him and play the game as him. I would really like to see that. I'm not a huge Damian Wayne fan. I was back when Grant Morrison was writing him, but the kind of the modern writers where he's gone off with the Teen Titans and gone off with John L. Not too big fan of that, but I am looking forward to this game. Batman will always supersede the Suicide Squad in my opinion, so I am looking forward to that game as well. But probably Gotham Knights is one I'm more excited for.
Yeah. So Gotham Knights is the one I'm most excited for. By the way, that's news to me. I thought that was Tim Drake in the game.
No, it's definitely
are you
Damian. Am I wrong?
I thought I read that it was Tim Drake.
Yeah, it's Tim Drake.
Oh,
yes.
Someone told me it was Damian. Oh,
no.
That almost
whole
broke
year
my...
I've been thinking it was Damian Wayne.
That almost broke my heart because I'm like, I'm of Jacob's opinion. Tim Drake is my favorite Robin, and I really don't like Damian, and I don't like how he's always pushed, and Tim Drake is always misused or not used at all. And so he said that. I'm like, wait, what? Like, I thought that was Tim Drake the whole time.
I apologize to everyone in the chat and who is watching. I totally got confused there.
You got some people so excited. No, I'm just kidding.
It's like, if that is Tim Drake, which I think it is, like, that's the lineup. That's what I wanted for the game. It's got Nightwing, Jason Todd, Batgirl, and then Tim Drake. And I'm like, perfect lineup.
It is. You're right.
I love the story. There's a problem with me where I kind of gravitate towards some games sometimes just because I like the characters over the gameplay. But like, I played Marvel's Avengers just because I'd been waiting for an Avengers game so long, and I could not play that game. I just wasn't having any fun with it.
Yeah, it sucks.
So yeah, that there is that concern. People are telling me, like, is the gameplay going to be good? Like, the setup looks great, but is the gameplay going to be good? And people are saying on the flip side, like, Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. I've just never been a big Suicide Squad fan. So I mean, I actually surprisingly liked elements of the newer movie that I saw. But it's like Suicide Squad, I'm not immediately like hyped for it. But people are saying that's probably going to be the better made game because it's Rocksteady. So yeah, I'm on the Gotham Knights. I'm on that's the one I'm really excited for. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, we'll see. I don't know, it might turn out to be the better game, but we'll see. I'll at least watch the cutscenes if anything. Even if I don't play the game, I'll watch the cutscenes and see the story.
Well, they made it just for you. They're gonna bring in Margot Robbie to voice Harley Quinn, and then just to troll you.
As long as it's not Kaylee Cuoco or Melissa Rauch from Batman and Harley Quinn. As long
there
as
have been a lot of bad Harley voice actresses.
Yeah, as long as they never bring Melissa Rauch back, I'm good.
So your favorite's Tara Strong, I assume.
No, it's actually Arlene Sorkin, and then I like Here's the thing about Tara Strong. I really liked her when she started, and then it almost seemed like she got lazier in her voice, and it's been more like Timmy Turner lately. So I
Yes,
don't.
that's true.
So that was another thing that's disappointed me with Kill the Justice League is you'd expect me to really be excited because Harley's in it, but then it's like Tara Strong is bringing that voice again that she did with Injustice 2, which and disappointed me in that game. So I actually really. I'm gonna shut up after this because I could talk forever about these voice actresses.
No, you're good.
But,
Go.
In the Injustice animated movie, I guess we could talk about that a little later. They've got new voice actors for Joker and Harley that we haven't heard before, and I think it's Jillian Jacobs who's doing Harley, and I just heard a little bit of her in the recent preview trailer they did with the Long Halloween, and I'm like, really good. Like she's probably the best voice actor I've heard for her in recent years. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, that's what I have to say about the voice actors.
So I put a poll in the comments for everybody to vote in. I asked, what are you most looking forward to at DC FanDome? And 46% of, so far we have 85 votes. 46% said Gotham Knights, 24% said the Suicide Squad game, and 29% said the Batman. So the Batman beating out Suicide Squad game. That is pretty interesting. It is Rocksteady, but at the same point, Rocksteady's not making a Batman game. It is Suicide Squad. But okay, thank you, Prav, for the super chat. Okay, let's talk about the Batman film more broadly. Obviously, the film comes out, I believe, in March of 2022. So This is going to be their last main trailer. I mean, we got a bit of a teaser, but this is going to be our first real trailer. We got a glimpse of Penguin. We got a glimpse of the Riddler, but not that much. Even just a millisecond of Catwoman as well. And a little bit of Batman and Gordon, but overall, it was a pretty light teaser trailer. Nothing too deep revealed. So I think this is going to be kind of the equivalent of like the San Diego Comic-Con trailer for BVS with DC FanDome. I think it's going to be a big trailer for the Batman. And I'm just curious, twofold. We'll start with you, Theresa. What are your thoughts on the Batman film thus far? And two, what do you think they're going to show at DC FanDome for the film?
So here's the thing that with me and Batman and DC is like I'm like Batman is the reason why I'm into DC at all, and I'm just like really into Batman, and I get very skeptical and very critical about these movies, but then when they show something and it reminds me of what I love about even just superficially what I love about Batman or whatever, then I just get into it. So with the Batman trailer last year, I was like, I'm not sure about Robert Pattinson. I'm not sure about any of this. I don't like it that they're remaking Batman Begins again, essentially. Then they showed the trailer, and it's, reminiscent of the Dark Knight trilogy and a little bit of the Joker movie, which is also reminiscent of the Dark Knight trilogy. And so I was like hyped. I was all on board with that trailer, and I was ready to go. And then when time passed and I started to come back down, and I was like, I don't know. Is it going to be good? Is the cast gonna work out? Do I really like Robert Pattinson? They say that they're pulling from year one in the Long Halloween again, which is what Batman Begins learned. So, but here's the thing about what they're gonna show. We just had the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer, and everyone went nuts. If people are still talking about it, that trailer trended like top 3 for like a week on YouTube. I kept seeing it trend.
Yep.
People are still talking about it. They haven't stopped. So just going forward, not only with the Batman trailer, but with the trailers in general at DC FanDome, they're going to be thinking right now, like, we need to have our trailer that generates that much hype. So whether it's the Batman or maybe even they show some footage from Black Adam or the Flash movie, they're going to want to show us something that really, really shakes people up and really excites people. It could be something from the Batman that we haven't seen yet. Like they might show us more of Riddler, or they might show like a big fight scene with Batman and Riddler, or some big reveal, or they might show off Michael Keaton coming back in the Flash, and I think he's coming back in the Batgirl HBO Max show. I'm not sure, but something like that. They're gonna craft the trailer to show us like something huge that's going to get everyone talking, or even just the entire trailer. They're just going to try to make it as exciting as possible. So I expect that they're going to, these people, regardless of how the movie turns out, are really good with marketing. So I expect it's going to be a really excitable trailer, like regardless of how the movie turns out. And I'll see the movie. I'll eat up anything that they give me from this. I'm just, it is a little bit different. Like when they said Andy Serkis is Alfred, I'm like, I don't know about that at all. Like, I like him as an actor, but I'm like, that's a very different casting choice for Alfred. So we have to see how it turns out.
Fair enough. Jacob.
Well, for me, it's I'm willing to give Robert Pattinson the benefit of the doubt. I really feel his casting was, even though I'm willing to say I think he'll do a good job, I still think his casting was Warner Brothers not knowing their audience. So we were all saying we're tired of old man Batman. We want a Batman who's in his prime, and so then they cast Robert Pattinson. Who was a sparkly vampire, right? And so I really feel like, oh, we'll just get all those teen girls who love Twilight, and we'll move them all over to the Batman. It doesn't work like that. However, I do think that he'll do a good job. He's a good actor. I've seen him in other things outside of the vampire series he was in, and
he is pretty good. You got to give him that.
He is pretty good.
He is talent.
My issue with Robert Pattinson is every time he talks about the Batman, it sounds like he's about to get a prostate exam. So, and so like, I know there were some YouTubers that were spreading rumors about his onset, and I won't get into that, but to me, his attitude toward the film kind of gives credence to some of those.
That's like an open secret in Hollywood that he's a diva about this whole movie.
Maybe so, and it's really funny because like whenever he did his intro, he literally goes, "Hi, I'm Robert Pattinson. I'm going to be in the Batman. Here's the trailer." And I was like, dude, you're playing Batman. He's probably the biggest literary character to ever come out of the United States, and that's your attitude toward it.
Right.
But anyway, I am excited for the film. As far as what we're going to see in DC Fandom, I do think we're going to see more of the Riddler. I agree with Theresa there. He's another person I'm a little concerned about, not with Paul Dano portraying him, but since Batman the Animated Series, it seems like Hollywood can't really get the Riddler correct. One of the filmmakers, I want to say it was a producer, he was doing an interview and he says, we're basing the Riddler off the Zodiac Killer. And I'm like, well, why don't you just make a movie about the Zodiac Killer? There's the Riddler is one of Batman's original foes going all the way back to the 50s. You don't need to go off another character, base him off one of the interpretations. I mean, he was the big baddie in Hush. Spoilers to those who haven't read the comic, but you can find sources that show how the Riddler is portrayed. So like, I don't think you need to go to an inspiration to a real character to create him. So that stuff like that concerns me. But then I'll like Theresa said, they'll show stuff, they'll release images or with the trailer at the Fandom, and then it gets me hyped for it again. So who knows? I do think it's going to be good. Matt Reeves is a really talented director. Jeffrey Wright is a really good actor. He was one I was a little hesitant about playing Commissioner Gordon, but again, saw him in the teaser. I was like, oh, okay. I think he can pull this off. So those are kind of my feelings for it. It's like I'll get hyped, and then one of the producers will say something, or Robert Pattinson will say something, and then my excitement drops. But then they'll release an image, and then I'll get it back. So whatever we see at DC Fandom, it better be mind blowing, because people are so hesitant about this film right now. I don't know if that's probably an effect of people wanting the Snyderverse to come back after the Justice League, after the Snyder cut of the Justice League was released. But they need to do something to get fans' attention back to this film, and I think they're going to pull it off. If anything, DC and Marvel, they do know how to cut a trailer.
Yeah, absolutely. Marvel's Reporter, thank you for the super chat. And also, guys, I linked Jacob and Theresa's channels in the description below. Please make sure you subscribe to them and turn on notifications for their channel. I highly recommend I subscribe to both of them and watch their content. So definitely go check that out in the description below if you're not subscribed to them already. And also, Marvel's Reporter, thank you again for the super chat. We'll get to your question as soon as we get into the Q&A segment, which shouldn't be too long from now, probably 45 minutes to an hour from now. Once we get through all of our thoughts on the films and the games, we'll start taking Q&As. And also, like I said, be sure to send in those questions, super chat questions, and comments. Go to the front of the line in the Q&A segment. So my thoughts on the Batman, which tend to infuriate a number of people, not as much as my opinion on the Iron Spider suit, evidently, but one thing that I do have an issue with the Batman film is that I feel like I'm seeing something that I've seen several times, and one of my friends, Jake Iergen, who's a fellow YouTuber, he said something really profound that I never thought about it this way. Is he's like, every Batman movie you watch is X director's take on Batman. In other words, like the Chris Nolan Batman trilogy is basically Chris Nolan's take on the Batman character. It's not Batman ripped off the comic book page, or off of even the animated series or the Arkham games. It's what Chris Nolan, if Batman lived in Chris Nolan's world, here's what Batman would be, right? And I think that when I look at this film, I kind of see the same thing where it's like, this is what Batman would look like if he lived in Matt Reeves's brain. And I'm kind of seeing a little bit of that where they're taking some liberties that I'm not a huge fan of. But here's what I will say is that even though, Jake in the chat, very profound all the time. No, but my real feeling on this is that this looks a little bit too much like Batman Begins. And my biggest critique of the Batman film up to this point is that, one, we haven't really gotten Batman ripped off the comic book page onto the big screen. Every time we see Batman, he's like murking people left and right, murdering people for no reason most of the time, which I'm not a fan of. That's not what Batman does in the comics, at least since 1941. And when we look at the film more broadly, I do think that I'm very annoyed with how he's emulating a number of things from the Chris Nolan take, where it's like the Riddler is not wearing a green top hat and a green cane. He's like wearing all black for some reason. He's like emo Riddler, and it's just not what Riddler is from the comics. Now, I understand that you have to evolve the characters to make them work on the big screen. Otherwise, it can be tacky. I'm not saying we want a Batman and Robin sort of situation here, but I do think that, one, no Bat family in this first film, which I think is frustrating, because the main thing that we were missing from a solid Batman live action trilogy is his cast of characters behind him, of Batgirl and Robin and Nightwing and all these characters. And even though they might do that in the second and third film, I would prefer for them to get into that much faster. And that's my main hope at DC FanDome, is that we do see some tease of Dick Grayson as Robin or Barbara Gordon or something like that. I assume they're not going to do it. I highly, highly doubt it. And that's my biggest pain point and piece of frustration with the film, is that they're not doing the Bat family, which is the number one thing that we've wanted from the last several Batman trilogies we've gotten. We haven't seen that, and that's something that I've really been missing and wanting. But nonetheless, I'm super excited for the movie, and my predictions for the film at DC FanDome is I think they're just going to show more of the villains to get us intrigued with the plot. And also, we don't really know what the movie's about in any real way. We know that there's corruption in the GCPD, and again, they're just borrowing a lot from The Long Halloween, which is fine, I suppose. But we have some general ideas of how the story is going to go. But at DC FanDome in particular, I really hope that we see some more from the Bat family. But again, I'm not really crossing my fingers. But it's pretty much year two Batman, like Cold Rain said in the chat.
Yeah.
Well,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I feel like this, to me, this is why Marvel always makes sure that the directors they hire read up on their characters. So even if the film ends up not the way you want it, Thor: Dark World, they at least study the characters a little bit. With DC, it seems like they hand them The Killing Joke, Year One, and All-Star Batman and Robin, and say, have at it. And they want to skip all of the other great stuff by Denny O'Neil and Chuck Dixon and Neil Adams. There's just so many amazing Batman writers that put out really how Batman is defined, how Commissioner Gordon is defined, how the Joker is defined, but they always give him these and even with The Long Halloween, which, by the way, is my favorite Batman story arc. I love the Halloween, and I loved the animated version they just did of it.
It was good. It was good.
Yeah, it was. And but even there, it's like it's still kind of a niche story. They not a lot of people know this, but they actually did a Batman Year 2 that wasn't well received, and so DC just wanted people. I own it, so I haven't forgotten about it. And so The Long Halloween and its sequel, The Dark Victory, those two were just kind of meant to replace Year 2 as the official second year of Batman's career. So I really think it's still one of those niche stories that just fits, and people love it because it has all the villains, right? They have that big event at the end where all of Batman's famous baddies come together and take over the crime in Gotham, and which is a really epic scene. But again, it's like DC Comics, they don't tell Matt Reeves, hey, you need to read Batman Earth 1, you need to read No Man's Land, you need to read Cataclysm. And Nolan, to his credit, he actually had read No Man's Land and Cataclysm and these other stories. That's why The Dark Knight Rises was such a big film. So I really feel that they need to start having these directors actually study these films and really understand what the characters are about.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm not sure where the Batman movie is gonna go because I guess
It's supposed to be a trilogy, allegedly.
allegedly. It's just that DC always is changing course so constantly. Like you always have to kind of see how it's received. I do agree. I just really want to see the Bat family together. Like just at least have Batman and Robin finally get together on screen because let's like they kind of flubbed that with Batman Forever a little bit, and then Batman and Robin, and then ever since Batman and Robin, and it's like no Robin, no Robin. Batman's by himself, or Robin's dead, or something like that. Like bring in Robin finally, and just
exactly.
like do a Robin origin story. And the other thing I was going to say is what I've been waiting for in a Batman trilogy or movie is not a remake of the Dark Knight trilogy, because that was what it was and it was really good, but I want something that like mixes the darker realistic take with the comic booky stuff. Like you have it to it's like Batman the Animated Series, right? Like you have the Riddler in a green costume, and you have stuff like the Lazarus pit that literally brings people to life. It's not just a pit you climb out of, it literally brings people to life. You have the Joker, he doesn't have to be in makeup, he can actually be bleached. You have like the more fantastic elements to that. You don't have to go all the way like Batman and Robin, but you can do what, dare I say it, you can do what Marvel has done, where you, to a certain extent, you embrace the ridiculousness of the comics and you make it work. Like that's what I'm waiting for in a Batman trilogy, and I think they would actually benefit from doing that and doing something different. But I feel like they feel like it's safe to just go to what the Dark Knight. They want the Dark Knight trilogy is what they want. They want to replicate that success. They tried to do that with Man of Steel. They tried to do that with Ben Affleck's Batman. I feel, even though they kind of went even darker with that. But they're constantly trying to remake the Dark Knight trilogy and what they had with that, and copy Nolan to an. I don't want to say copy because Matt Reeves is distinct, but he also does like Cloverfield. He doesn't. He's very good. He also does like darkly lit, intense movies. So. And War for the Planet of the Apes, the newer series. So, that's what I'm interested in. Like, I would want people will disagree with me, but what I would want is like a high budget like Batman streaming show or TV show. Like high budget, you have Batman, Batgirl, and Robin as like your primary characters, and you're able to have all of the Batman rogues, because the rogues are sometimes the entire reason people love Batman so much. But you have all those rogues there, and you have episodes that develop those characters and can just take a long time to develop those characters, like in their different relationships, because there's only so much you can do with 3 movies. And I feel like we always do Batman movie teases the Joker, a different character. Like
that's exactly my problem. Exactly.
You know that this is gonna become about the Joker eventually.
Yep.
And I love the Joker. Like he's my second favorite character from DC, but he does, I agree with fans, he does take up a lot of space because people love him so much, and there's just never enough time for the other characters to not only get a chance in the spotlight, but be able to stay in the spotlight. And so
oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just going to say, I think that with what you were saying, a high level Batman streaming TV series, they really need to combine the Hawaii Five-0 reboot with the X-Files, and take the tone and kind of the character relationships of X-Files, and then put it in the Hawaii Five-0 reboot, where you have this elite Batman family taking out the bad guys of Gotham City. I really think that something like that could work, and really DC Comics or DC Films needs to treat Batman like James Bond. So every movie he's taking on a different bad guy, and then maybe you can bring some of them back every once in a while. Like y'all were saying, we don't need to see the same 3 villains every movie. They can explore some of the other ones who haven't been on scene. People don't realize the Dark Knight Rises was the second time we got Bane, who is a really great character. Of course, the first time he was they did an awful job. But that was Dark Knight Rises Bane. I had my issues with it, but I think for what they were going for, it worked. They still need to get into some of these other villains that Batman has, because he has some high concept villains like Simon Hurt or the Cult of the Cobra. They could do something like that. And I really think with the Batman in film, if they want to have a Justice League story arc, so that a unified universe, and we'll probably talk about this more, just have that Batman ignore what's going on in the Batman films and just have all, kind of like Sony's doing, just have Batman have his own standalone films that's similar to James Bond or Mission Impossible or whatever you want to say.
Yeah, as well, I just wanted to point out before we go back to Kobe, this is the second time we've seen Penguin on screen. It's the second time we've seen Riddler. Dark Knight was the second time we saw Two-Face. Selena Kyle, of course, well, she might have to be a given, but she's appeared in every franchise. So, we do kind of reuse the most iconic, like everybody knows these Batman rogues, like even just in name, and maybe like they've seen a Lego of them, but everyone knows these Batman characters. So, yeah, it would be nice to give other characters a chance to get in there as well.
So, guys, we have over 360 votes in our poll, and now the Batman and Gotham Knights are tied for what people are most looking forward to at DC FanDome. Very, very interesting. I was not expecting that on this channel in particular, with so many people interested in the video games, at least on my channel, but clearly you all are very excited for the Batman, as am I. It's difficult to compare. It's kind of apples to oranges comparison, right? Comparing a video game to a movie, at least in my opinion. But it does show that people are really, really looking forward to the movie, and I think we all agree that we want to see them take some creative liberties with the film. I really am just scared of it being a Batman Begins clone. I want some of that comic book stuff in there. And the one thing that is encouraging is that just today, somebody who had seen, maybe I shouldn't say this, but
I saw the same post.
Okay. You think it's fine to say? Like, it's not going to be okay. That Batman does not kill in the film. So Batman does not kill. He has the no-kill sort of rule in the movie, at least according to the person who saw it or allegedly saw it. So that's something that's really exciting and shows that maybe Matt Reeves is on another level from some of the other directors who have been kind of doing their best impression of Batman, when in reality we want to see the Batman, thus the name. So yeah. I think that kind of encapsulates our thoughts there. Speaking of that, I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on if we will see anything from the ongoing television shows or movies that are allegedly being developed around the Bat family in particular. So as you know, I think 5 years ago they announced a Barbara Gordon Batgirl movie that just now had a cast for it. Do we think you're going to see anything there from that, or is it too early? And secondly, they also announced a Nightwing movie 5 years ago that they've kind of tabled. What do you guys think? Should we get excited for anything there, or should we not get our hopes up?
I don't think we should get our hopes up. They clearly don't know how to do Batman on television. Every single one has since that's not animated or has Adam West tied to it has been an abysmal failure. Batwoman is a failure. Before that, Birds of Prey. And I know that some people may disagree with me, but I think Titans is a failure as far as representing Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, Tim Drake. And then I heard it really messed up Batman in this new season. I haven't watched it yet, but for some reason, when it comes to television, they don't want to give us Batman directly. They want us to dance around him. And I just don't understand that. I think that if Superman can have Superman and Lois, I think Batman could have Batman Gotham Knights as a show, not just a video game. But the Barbara Gordon series, apparently it's going to take place in the Snyderverse. It's going to have J.K. Simmons is supposed to be return as Commissioner Gordon. At least that's the rumor. So I don't know how they're.
So now there are two Gordons.
Yeah, another two Gordons, and then and then Gotham Central is going to be based on the Batman. So we're going to have like competing Commissioner Gordons on screen.
And then in the season finale, they duel. Like old Western style.
Yeah, they do the Batman who laughs, and then they just meet them. But anyway, I'm not looking forward to it. I don't think the Nightwing movie is ever going to get made, at least in the current interpretation. Joss Whedon was behind the Batgirl film, and which is now the Batgirl show. He was also somehow involved with Nightwing. I can't remember how. I think he was a producer or a writer or something like that. But how can you do Nightwing without being a spin-off of Batman? There were some rumors, and again, take this with an absolute grain of salt. I read this on Reddit somewhere, but apparently Dick Grayson is dead in the Snyderverse, and so this Nightwing movie, was supposed to show how he died in the Snyderverse, or at least lead up to it. It may not have shown it on screen. I don't know if that's true or not. I read that somewhere on Reddit, so I don't know. Take that with a grain of salt. But whatever the case is, I just don't think that we're until DC has like a sea change where they get away from the CW sort of vibe of their shows, I don't think we're going to get Batman Justice on the small screen for a while. That's just, I hate to be the pessimistic one, but just me being a Batman fan since I was 8 years old, I don't think we'll ever get a non-animated Batman on the small screen that's going to really do him justice.
Look, this is WB and HBO. Imagine if they gave Batman the Game of Thrones treatment, right? Even just for 3 seasons. Like, I don't understand. To your point, I totally agree with you. Why are they not giving him the Game of Thrones treatment and creating like this epic, incredible thriller with like multi-million-dollar episodes? Instead, they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this show Gotham, and then at the very end, Batman's gonna show up for like 4 seconds. It's like, get out of here. Yeah. That is so stupid.
And I actually liked Gotham, but like you were saying, the finale made me feel like there was going to be a spinoff, and then there wasn't. It didn't feel like a last episode. It felt like a pilot.
Yes,
and so
exactly.
But yes, you're absolutely right.
So what I wanted to say about the Nightwing movie is that movie was announced. So there was this really weird era of DC and WB, like right after, I want to say it was right after Suicide Squad came out and was so negatively received. It was like, So the way I would assume, or that I kind of know productions work, is they do have a lot of things, quote unquote, in development, like just stuff on the table that they might make into a movie, but in various stages of development, not sure if they're going to go forward. Sometimes people are attached, sometimes they just kind of sit on it, sometimes they really are committed to it and go forward. But they usually do not make all of that public. Now, what I think happened with DC is they're like, oh, we don't know what to do. We don't know which direction to take. Let's make all of our ideas public. So all of a sudden we got like Nightwing movie, Batgirl movie, Joker versus Harley movie. What was another one? There was a Green Lantern movie. Green Lantern Corps is coming out. There was a Jared Leto Joker movie.
Yeah, back in like 2015, 2016.
Announced.
Yeah.
There was a Will Smith Deadshot movie. Yes, I remember that. There was there was a Gotham City Sirens movie, which people like, that's a phantom. Like the fans are like convinced that movie is going to happen. And I keep saying like, no, there's been no confirmation. And these sites, like these third-party sites keep saying it. I'm like, you keep saying it. Like the last thing we got from it was James Gunn saying, no, despite what everybody says, I'm not making that movie right now. And like, they're still like, oh no. But anyway, there was just so many movies that were announced that never went forward, or if they did, like a fraction of those went forward. But even movies like The Trench and the New Gods movie, they got release dates and they were still canceled. So I haven't heard anything from the Nightwing movie in years. I don't think it's actually happening. I think that maybe a producer walked by the intern and was like, maybe we'll do a Nightwing movie. And he's like, okay. And he wrote up the article, and maybe that's what that was. But like, I don't think that we're ever going to get those movies, because I think a lot of those were just literally throwing stuff out in the internet and seeing how people reacted to it. And it was a crazy period of time where we just kept getting all of these announcements. There was a Ben Affleck Batman movie in that pile as well. Like there was a Man of Steel 2. I keep remembering all the movies they said were going to happen that never happened. So no, we're not going to get anything about Nightwing. With Batgirl, and here's the interesting thing I wanted to bring up. It seems they have been announcing a lot of stuff. They announced the casting for that Batgirl project. So, and this is what happened last year. It's like DC FanDome or Fandom or whatever, however you pronounce it. It seems to be more about giving actual trailers and more information than like big announcements no one knew about. So
True.
Like, I think we might get like Leslie Grace. We might get her like speaking, just reiterating what she's doing. Maybe at the very most generous, maybe some more details of what it's going to be like. Michael Keaton is allegedly supposed to be in it. Like he's floating around. Michael Keaton's floating around. What I found really weird about the Batgirl thing is, so they cast a black actress for Batgirl, right? And the assumption is, well,
she's Hispanic.
Hispanic. Like the assumption was from me, it was like, well, you got Jeffrey Wright playing her father, of course, but then you have J.K. Simmons as her father, and I'm like, is this going to be the universe in the comics where Barbara's actually his adopted daughter? Like, what's going on with that? So it's just kind of complicated right now, and I think it is kind of complicated because they're like, no, we gave you the Snyder cut, and that's it. We're not doing any more. It underperformed. No more. But also watch our Batgirl show that's coming out. Snyder. Like Henry Cavill is out, Ben Affleck is out. All those people are. Watch our J.K. Simmons and Leslie Grace Batgirl. So it's like I'm just kind of like, what is happening with this stuff? I mean, I'll watch the trailer, I'll see what it's all about, but I'm not really sure about this Batgirl thing that's going on. So yeah, that's what I'll say. And Gotham Central, I'm not looking forward to that because like I when they announced it, I'm like, well, you just had Gotham. Isn't this the same thing? And then the big draw was supposed to be, well, Terrence Winters, like a huge screenwriter. He's writing the show. It's going to be really good. And then he left because there was like conflict behind the scenes. And so you're like, oh, okay. So the big draw for this just left. So I'm not really thinking about that. Like I'll forget that exists. And then people remind me and I'm like, oh yeah, that they're remaking Gotham again on HBO. So yeah.
DC definitely has an identity crisis going on right now, and particularly with their films, they thought they had it in the bag with the Snyderverse, and all it did was divide fans, and even in a worse way than Star Wars fans are divided. And I really, I'm on. People know me. I'm not talking out of turn. Everyone knows this about me. I hate Zack Snyder as a filmmaker. I think his movies are terrible, and so I never really got into the Snyderverse. I thought it was a really poor interpretation. That being said, I liked the spin-off films. I liked Wonder Woman. I liked Aquaman. I was looking forward to the Flash until we got to see the Star choke slam one of his fans on the ground, and it's kind of like. Warner Brothers is going through this weird thing because AT&T tried to bail them out, but then they didn't want to listen to AT&T, so then now they got shoved to the Discovery Channel, and so now Discovery Channel is trying to clean house. They're firing people, so I don't know what's going to come out as far as the television side. I think the movie stuff is pretty much solid. And that's why, because movies still make money. Free Guy just proved that. Mortal Kombat proved that. Godzilla vs. Kong proved that. So, I think we're going to. They're pretty solid with their upcoming slates. I think their only problem right now is, which we probably aren't going to get into this as much, but I think their only problem movie is Aquaman 2, because of the issues with the starlet of the movie. But I think that's their only problem because Black Adam seems very solid. I think the Flash is going to be very solid. I think the Batman is going to be very solid. So if they can hype everyone up, I think that is going to be something that's going to be the highlight of Fandom.
Absolutely. Thank you. By the way, Sam and Marvel Universe and the other people that have Marvel's reporter, I've seen your super chats. We're putting them in the queue for the Q&A. So just want you to know, even though it's going to take a little bit for us to get to them, we're finishing up on the movies now and then going to talk about video games and then get to the Q&A. But we are making note of your super chats and we'll get to them in the Q&A segment. We're already pretty backlogged in terms of questions sent in via super chat. So we're probably that's going to be the main way we source questions for the Q&A. If you do want to be a part of the Q&A or share any of your thoughts yourself for us to discuss, then please send that in now, and we'll put that in the queue. Just in order of when they're sent in. So speaking of, Jacob, you just alluded to Shazam, Black Adam. There are also a number of weird choices that they're making, right? Like there's a Peacemaker television show, which astounds me. I mean, Peacemaker was the least likable character from the Suicide Squad movie, which I personally loved. I don't know what you guys think about it, but I love the movie. I thought it was fun. I thought it was a really good movie, and but far and away, he was the least likable character, the one that I would be fine to not see. I mean, even like a Rick Flag TV show, I can kind of understand to some extent, but to go with Peacemaker, I mean, really bizarre choices. And this, again, goes back to my critique of Warner Brothers more broadly, is that sometimes they just make decisions that are so out of left field that you can't really understand them. It's like, okay, they wanted to sign John Cena for a television show deal, so they just made a character for him and are giving him this Peacemaker show. It's quite bizarre to me, but in terms of the other films here, particularly The Flash and Shazam 2, I'm curious, do you guys think we'll see anything from those movies. I mean, The Flash to me is going to have a sort of Infinity War / Endgame, somewhat of an equivalence there, because they or even to No Way Home. There's some comparisons, obviously, where we're bringing in some characters from other universes. We're bringing back some DCEU favorites that people want to see a send-off for. I'm just curious what your expectations and hopes are for that film. And Theresa's point more broadly, more than announcing anything, they're probably just going to show us something really cool from those movies to hype us up. So I'm just curious, are you guys excited for those two films, and what are your expectations for them going into DC FanDome here in a little over a month?
Well,
go ahead, Teresa.
I really liked the first Shazam movie, so yeah, I'm down for a sequel. I never even thought we'd get a sequel because there were so many delays, and they were worried. I remember they were really concerned because the kids, they were like almost teenagers when they did the first movie, and then COVID hit, and then they were really concerned, like, we're not going to be able to bring the original kids back because they're going to get so much older. But yeah, I really am looking. I love, like, they gave Mary Marvel a new suit, and I think that the suits have really upgraded and it looks good. As I understand, they seem to have filmed and done enough at this point. We probably will have some kind of teaser for that movie. I'm not like, oh my gosh, I gotta see that trailer. Like, that's not gonna be the huge hype, because that's what was the big thing about Shazam. It was a good movie, but it did not hype people up, and it did not make it broke even, which was the important thing, and that's how it got a sequel. But it did not make a whole lot of money, and some of that was just the lack of hype. Some of that was the confusion of who Shazam Captain Marvel is. It was sandwiched between Marvel's Captain Marvel and Endgame, which was another factor that just kind of made people overlook it. But the Flash, I think that they're going to try to squeeze out as much for that movie as they can, regardless if they have a lot done, because, again, No Way Home trailer came out and introduced the multiverse. It's the same thing with, there was Batman versus Superman, there was Civil War. They're going to be thinking, we have to get our competition out there. We have to show people, no, we have this product. And so I think that they're going to really try to get something from that Flash movie out, and, like, reveal Supergirl or Superman or Michael Keaton Batman or something. Like, oh, you've got Alfred Molina as Doc Ock. Oh, well, we got Michael Keaton Batman. How about that?
Exactly.
I feel like that's what they're going to try to do. As for the quality of the Flash, I'm not into Ezra Miller's Flash so much, and I said this on Warrior Woman 91's channel when we did a stream with Kobe. This is just my experience. Whenever DC tries to do a movie quickly that Marvel has built up, they tried to do their Avengers, they tried to do their Civil War, they tried to do their this I would consider is either their Infinity War or their No Way Home movie. Every time they try to do something that Marvel has actually done more work in building up, it explodes in their face. So that's my concern for the Flash, that it's going to be another situation where they have a lot of characters and a lot of universes and a lot of different ideas coming in, and it blows up in their face. I want to see more about it, though. I want to see what it's all about. And also, remember, this movie is supposed to be because they feel their previous universe failed. They want to move past the Snyderverse. They want to get an excuse to soft reboot. It might be even what they're doing in the comics. Like, okay, we're going to have a Flashpoint event that's going to reboot what we want and keep what we want. So it's kind of more of a strategic movie, it seems, than even just a hyped up, like, fan fest like No Way Home seems to be. So I'm skeptical about it, but I think that that's going to be the movie where they're like, okay, we have our multiverse movie. See, we have our multiverse thing. Like, get hyped about it. Talk about that trend, please. So I think that we are going to get something of the Flash, even if we weren't originally going to, because they see the No Way Home hype and they're like, well, we want some of that.
For me, I feel like I agree with Theresa. I feel like they need to come up with something like. I don't think that they need to do a movie reboot of the entire universe. So I think that Shazam: Fury of the Gods, which I am looking for. I'm like Theresa. I really love Shazam. I really like Zachary Levi as an actor. So I thought it was really cool to see him. But I think they're gonna treat those sequels as spin-offs. So Aquaman 2, it's gonna feel like isolated, kind of like Wonder Woman 1984 was. Hopefully it'll be better quality than that film. And same with Fury of the Gods. Black Adam is in a different time period, so they can kind of do that however they want. I think that what we'll see with the Flash is they're going to try to reboot the Snyderverse, and it's going to pull in the stuff they liked about the Snyderverse and the stuff that they didn't like. So they didn't like Zack Snyder. I think we're going to see a less grim DC look. What to me what they need to do is they need to copy the previous DC AMU. So that's the DC animated movie universe. Not the one that had the Justice League Unlimited, but the series of movies. So they had Justice League: The Flashpoint Paradox, and then they had Justice League War, and then it did some Batman films, a couple of Superman films, and then I think 2 Wonder Woman films. They need to do something like that. So
you're a big Bad Blood fan.
I actually didn't mind Bad Blood. A lot of people didn't like that movie. I thought it was fine.
Really?
I liked their I liked Batman and Son better. I did not like Batman versus Robin. I didn't like how they combined.
Really?
I didn't like how they combined Batman versus Robin with Court of the Owls.
Yeah.
I didn't like that. They should have been their own movies. And also, just so people know, Batman versus Robin, that arc is with Dick Grayson, not with Bruce Wayne. So that felt out of place for me in that particular film. But yeah, I think they need to do something like that with the movies. They need to do the opposite of the MCU. They need to start with the Justice League and then spin everybody off. That's just my opinion. I don't think we'll see that with the Flash, though. I think it's going to be they're going to use it as a tester, so they're going to show a bunch of different things.
Right.
They're going to see what people react to positively, and then we're going to see a shift in how they do movies based on how people react to the Flash. And that's another movie that was hit with so many delays. Originally, it was going to be a Flashpoint movie, and then they said, "Oh no, it's going to be a standalone Flash film, and he's going to fight Gorilla Grodd." And then they changed it again to something else. It escapes me. They were going to do like a Brave and the Bold type film, and then now it's back to where it's almost like a Flashpoint film. So we'll see where we'll see where it goes. That one, like I said, I'm not too excited about. I probably will go see it when it comes out, but the trailer may change my mind because Michael Keaton as Batman, I'm not a huge fan of the Burtonverse because it was more. Tim Burton admitted that he never read a comic book in his life. He just went with what they.
It was pretty obvious. It was pretty.
Yeah,
obvious.
it was pretty. Yeah, I mean, he's got Batman attaching bombs to people. Like at least in Joel Schumacher, when villains died, it was because of an accident or something. In Burton, he had literally, hey, here's a bomb. I'm gonna blow you up, and I'm gonna blow up a whole building and kill all you bad guys. So, but I still liked Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne. I thought he was a really good Bruce Wayne, but he was kind of a poor Batman. So I liked him as Batman in Batman Returns. I thought he kind of grew into the role. So it's one of those things where I'm curious to see how that Burton Batman is going to be in another director's movie. So who knows? I have a feeling they're going to have him replace Thomas Wayne as the Dark Batman. It'll just be this older, grizzled Bruce Wayne, from is it Earth 2? Yeah, the Earth 2 Batman. I think that's what they're going to go with. He's just going to replace the Earth 2 where Thomas Wayne is Batman instead of Bruce Wayne. That's honestly how I feel.
That'd be interesting. I mean, to me, in terms of the films that I'm most anticipating, I think the Batman is number 1 for sure. But I would say the Flash is number 2, just because of all the things we discussed in terms of the potential that they have. And also, this is an opportunity to create a clean slate, just like with a Rebirth, or with a comic relaunch like New 52 or Rebirth. You get to a point where things can get convoluted, things get messy. People drop out, writers, like in the comic book side of things, writers drop or stories go awry, or they do things that, like 4 seconds later after you publish it, you're like, oh, why did I do that? Like, for instance, the Nightwing stuff in Rebirth is like, okay, actually, they messed up Nightwing in the New 52 and Rebirth incredibly. Yeah. Like they messed him up in both, and then you get to that certain point where it's like, okay, it's time to start with a clean slate, at least to some extent, and I think that's kind of at the point we are with the DC films. And it's not even a matter of, do you like the Snyderverse, do you not? Let's say you love the Snyderverse. I think you still have to have that level of cognitive dissonance to recognize that there does need to be that sort of soft reboot or relaunch of some kind, because we have had so many actors drop out and so many of the original creators drop out. And just the place of where we are, the genre has changed over the last 5 years. Infinity War and Endgame have made the genre they're never going to be the same in a good way, but I think that that's something that's pretty apparent to me, and that's the reason I'm so excited to see the Flash. And they might do the same sort of thing with the No Way Home teaser, where we do get to see a little bit of a Tim Burton teaser from the Tim Burton films, or something like that, I think would really amplify the hype for that film, which is slated for, do you guys know off the top of your head, is that 2022 or 2023?
I think 2022. I could be wrong, but I want to say it's next year.
Okay, that's what I thought.
I just thought that the Flash had kind of a timeline, because I know Walter Hamada has a contract with DC to do films.
That's his baby. Flash is his baby.
Yeah, to 2023. So the only reason I remember that is because I'm like, okay, Walter Hamada, some people feel like, is he kind of the problem because they don't have really a good executive like, say, Kevin Feige, who really understands the audience and how to.
It was supposed to be Jeff Johns. He was supposed to be the big idea guy.
Well, then
they wouldn't listen to him.
They got rid of him, and then so that's kind of the only reason I was remembering that is I remember people saying, well, if Flash doesn't work out, then for some reason I almost called him James Wan. No, Walter Hamada. They're saying if Flash doesn't work out, he's probably going to be gone, and they're probably going to be searching for a new executive again. But so I guess that's why that's.
You think so?
We'll see, because I mean DC is crazy. They keep changing up executives and making very reactionary decisions, very quick.
Yeah, DC is really bad about making reactionary decisions. Like when Batman versus Superman came out, I will admit it was a success. I thought it was a terrible movie, I'll admit it was a success. But they misinterpreted the success of it. So they thought. So they make Superman, or they make Man of Steel, and they give us this angsty teen version of Superman, and it was a success because people were wanting a good Superman film since Superman Returns. So it's a huge success. So then they go into Batman versus Superman, and they double down on the grim and gritty. But then people criticize it, right? Even though it was this huge success financially. So then that leaks over into Suicide Squad, which should have been grim and gritty, but then they tried to turn it into a bad version of Deadpool, and fortunately it didn't affect Wonder Woman or Aquaman, or Shazam. But I feel like, I'm not really sure if Walter Hamada is the problem, because he came in after all the drama with the Snyder trilogy. So I'm not really. I think people are knee-jerk blaming him, but also a point to that argument though is that he did not try to get control. He let everyone fight, and then so that good leaders should get everything under control, and he kind of has now, but that's only because he fired everyone. So hopefully. I'm not really sure if the Flash will be contingent on his contract, but we're going to wait and see. Really, Jeff Johns should be where Walter Hamada is. He's the creative guy. He's written the best Batman stories of the modern era. James Tynion and Tom King were utter failures, but Jeff Johns comes back with Batman.
That's debatable about the Tom King thing. I don't necessarily disagree in some aspects, but
the first 50 issues were good. So the War of
Correct.
Jokes and Riddles, loved it. And then after the wedding issue, it's like he forgot how to write. And he turned Batman into this guy who everyone beats up on all the time. And they have these weird one-word dialogue conversations.
Bat.
And that don't. And then, bat,
oh,
cat,
man, it's
bat,
weird.
cat. And then he did this weird Nightmares story arc that was really dumb, and then ended up not meaning anything to the City of Bane arc, which had probably the worst ending of any comic book I've ever read. And that includes Gen 13 stuff. So it was. I just think, and then now he's trying to redeem himself with this Batman Catwoman series, and now he's just ruining my childhood by introducing the Phantasm in it. And it's been, but it's DC definitely needs to. Fortunately, he's not on Batman anymore, other than Batman Catwoman. But hopefully, with whoever takes over, whether Walter Hamada stays or they find their Kevin Feige, which it could be Jon Favreau. He's not really happy with Lucasfilm right now. Whoever it is, they're going to need someone to right this ship because it's too chaotic right now.
That's interesting. It remains to be seen which route they'll go down. I think Walter Hamada is here to stay for at least a bit. They're going to give him an opportunity to to right that ship, like you said. And the other thing is that he does have some box office successes under his belt with Joker, obviously.
Yeah,
that was
which
a big.
I want to.
Yep, go.
I want to interject. I didn't know if we were going to do a segment on the show about stuff we don't want to be announced, but I'm just like,
yeah, go ahead.
Please don't announce a Joker 2. Don't go forward with it. Don't make it. Don't write it. Stop.
Oh, you're too late. It's already happening.
I know, but I'm like, don't do that. Don't do that. This isn't the first time that they said we're doing something and then it never came out, because I'm like, okay, this was our agreement. I'm like, I know that you're just using the Joker's name to get your art film released. It came out. It was actually really good. I actually really loved the movie, but I'm like, Joaquin Phoenix is amazing. But I'm like, okay, it's its own like contained thing. It's an art film. It doesn't get a lot of merchandise. It goes to the Oscars. It goes to the Venice Film Festival. I'm like, it's its own contained thing. Leave it alone. But made $1 billion. So they're like, and it was so cheap to make. So of course they're like, Joker's a product now, Joker 2. And I'm like, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't announce any more of that movie. Don't create a plot. Don't create a trailer. Don't even think about it. But
they're gonna start selling like action figures with like Joker's mom, like turning her into a superhero. You know,
like please don't do that. The only thing someone said that like might be interesting for a Joker sequel is like this guy said this like right after the first, is like, you do the same thing but you do Harley Quinn and you do like the dark version of her origin. There was recently a book that came out actually pretty good. Like she hasn't had very good comics lately, but there was a book that like kind of gave Harley the Joker treatment and like chose to do a really dark realistic story. And they're like, you could do that in the Joker universe. And I'm like, yeah, you could. It would also be very different because this is a very different background for the Joker, one that actually has a background. But overall, I'm just like, Joker was an art film more than a comic book film. If you want to look at it as a comic book film at all, it was an Elseworld story. I don't see any reason that we should have a sequel for that. The other thing I really don't want to be announced, but I know it's not going to be announced, is the Ayer cut. And bear with me, I used to be in favor of the Ayer cut, and I used to be like, sure, why can't we? My interest in Suicide Squad was like, this is really different, but let's actually see where it is. And then I watched the movie, and everything was chopped up. But the more I see of the Ayer cut, the more I'm like, oh, I understand why they cut this up. And it was different than Zack Snyder with his Justice League, where they were like, rewrite the course, abandon ship. The Ayer cut, I think it was more like they're like, because what people overlook constantly is like, it was more than just Batman and Superman. Like they wanted to make it like light and fun. Like they had a really, really bad test screening for the original Suicide Squad. And that was part of the reason why they were like, we have to chop things out, mainly with Jared Leto's Joker. And the more I read the script, and I actually knew some of this from the book that was released, I'm like, this is absolutely, I write scripts. I've learned to write scripts. I'm like, this is the worst screenwriting I've ever read. I understand. I don't think it's going to be announced or they're going to go forward with it, because like Ann Sarnoff was like very against the Snyder cut. And like, as soon as the Snyder cut was released, she's like, no, we're not doing the Ayer cut. We're not doing any more of this. And it seems like and then the stuff with Discovery happened because they were disappointed in the Snyder cut. The only person who seems to like be in favor of the Ayer cut is like David Ayer, and then like a small group of fans. Is like a small group of fans on Twitter who are very, very loud, and it you know, they can make 1 million bots to promote this. And like David Ayer was leaking scripts out of a third-party source to like prove this was my version. It had heart, it had soul, it was good. And then we're all just like this is like, one person said, I would be fighting to like hide this if I had written that. It was like,
the
was
Joker
just like,
was working with the Enchantress. That was one of the things that's
there's a big scene in it where Batman like taunts Deadshot and is like, take one last look at your daughter. She's gonna have gray hairs when you see her again, like right in front of her. And people are like, Batman, who had his parents murdered, and that's his whole character. Like he would never say that to a child. Like, you're never gonna see your father again. You're never gonna see your kid again. Like, he would never act like that. There was a scene, I'm sorry to say this on a stream, there was a scene like Jared Leto's Joker is straight up naked in a scene, and I'm like, please, what is this? And someone noted that this is just the script. This does not mean it was all filmed, but it was just really terrible stuff. And I'm like, I don't want that to be released, and I don't think it's ever going to be released for different reasons than anything with Zack Snyder. I just think that I'm like, if you release that, it's not gonna. You're gonna have a small group of fans who praise it just because it's the director's vision. You're gonna have more hate to David Ayer. You're gonna have more hate to Jared Leto. You're gonna have Warner Brothers have more hate for having that made or written in the first place. So I don't think that they have like any desire to release that movie as much as David Ayer likes. Yeah, we're probably not going to get any of that. But I just wanted to say I don't agree with releasing the Ayer cut anymore.
My issue with the Ayer cut is David. It wasn't like Snyder where he left the production after a very personal tragedy. It's terrible what happened, and so they brought in someone to recut the film to right the ship, right? With David Ayer, he when they recut it, he was going around talking about how amazing it was. There's literal
fuck Marvel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's literally an interview where the reporter asked him, this isn't being well received. People aren't liking it, and he like argues with the reporter about it, and so I really feel that. I do think it exists because they all exist at some point, right? I used to not believe it exists, but then he started releasing stuff, and I was like, oh, well, it does. But I said, but my thing is, he got his paycheck, and now he wants to cry about it because Zack Snyder got his way. Never mind the fact that Zack Snyder, did this huge campaign with all these bots and trolls that are just freaking annoying, and
you're gonna get flamed for that one, Jacob.
I don't care. I'll just say it. Zack Snyder is a hack. There now. My Twitter is @realJacobAiry. Have fun. And
YouTube's down below.
Yeah, I really feel that that with him, it's more of a thing where. He just saw someone else got their way and $60 million, even though Zack Snyder said it was completed, to finish it. And now he's just throwing a hissy fit because he's not getting his way. I really think it's a matter of pride for him more than he cares about the art of it or whatever. Yeah, but I just don't think he should be able to be allowed to release it. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, but I'm like, this is not, if he thinks that it's going to give him like fix his career or give him more clout, I'm like, this stuff released, which is having people who wanted it released change their minds. I'm like, this is going to be so much worse for you, and you better be glad that they recut this film. Like, I cannot imagine the disaster that would have occurred if that original film had gotten released. I'm shocked that they even saw the script, and they were probably just rushed for it. But they were like, oh yeah, let's let him film this. I'm surprised at that. Like, releasing the Ayer cut is not going to help anybody. Maybe when the world is about to end, we'll all hold hands as the sun eclipses the earth, and we'll watch the Ayer cut just to have closure. But not now. Not right now.
Okay, so I think that is something that you don't want to see at DC FanDome, Theresa. Jacob, what about you? Is there anything that you would not, in fact, be disappointed to see announced?
That I would be disappointed to see announced? Not really. I kind of agree with Theresa on the Ayer cut. I honestly don't want to see, because there's another one with Joel Schumacher, the Batman Forever Schumacher cut. I don't want to see that be announced, because I really feel like Joel Schumacher, apart from Batman Forever, Joel Schumacher was a brilliant filmmaker, and I really feel that the people clamoring for the darker version of Batman Forever, that I really feel like that they were doing that after he passed away. They were taking advantage of his death to see, hey, let's get this out. I don't really think that one exists, and in fact, I feel like the Val Kilmer documentary kind of confirmed this, because there's like a 5-minute segment where he talks about Batman Forever, and I really feel that this would have been an opportunity for him to say that there was a darker version of the film, but they recut it, and I was really that's why I didn't come back for Batman and Robin. But no, he said, I didn't like the way the story was told. It was more about the villains than it was about Batman, and so I didn't want to come back for a sequel. And so I really feel I don't think that's something I don't think will be announced, but I would be really disappointed if DC just somehow pulled it out of a hat somewhere, because I think that's actually more disrespectful to Joel Schumacher, who, like I said, apart from Batman Forever, I really feel is a brilliant filmmaker, and so I don't want to see DC use his name as a cash grab to help boost their reputation in the comic book film space.
Let's not put it past DC though. That's definitely what they're gonna do. They're definitely gonna cash in.
Oh, the Richard Donner cut. They waited till after he died and then they released it, right?
Oh, absolutely,
so,
absolutely.
For Superman 2, yeah.
Hey guys, thank you to all 200 viewers we have in the chat. I hope you guys are enjoying the show. Be sure to give the stream a thumbs up if you haven't already. Let's shift gears now and talk about the video game side of things. We can circle back if we have any more thoughts on the movies and television shows here in a bit, but wanted to get to some of the questions that people have been sending in. And before we do that, let's just give our thoughts on both Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League. So these are forthcoming titles from Rocksteady Studios, the creator of Batman Arkham, and also WB Games Montreal, who is developing Gotham Knights. They created Batman Arkham Origins, the prequel to Rocksteady's trilogy. So obviously these are very anticipated games. I think that, again, after Marvel's Avengers, which did not meet expectations of fans, and also people have been clamoring for another Batman Arkham game, and we're not getting another Arkham game, at least not anytime soon, but we are getting Gotham Knights. So basically 1 year ago, they showed us the CGI trailer, and this game has a long storied history to it that many people are aware of. But actually before this game, they were developing several video games, one of which being a Damian Wayne focused Batman game that kind of was Batman Beyond inspired. Very interesting. They ended up canceling the game. So WB Montreal's last video game they published was in 2013, which was Arkham Origins. That's the only AAA video game they have published. But it's been a decade, but they haven't been working on this video game for a decade straight because of the Damian Wayne game being canceled. But it does raise an interesting question that, how this game will compare to the Arkham games, and more broadly, what we expect to see from this game here at DC FanDome. Obviously, it was supposed to already be out by now, pretty much. The game was supposed to come out this year. It's been delayed to 2022. So obviously they had a big showing at the first DC FanDome, even showing gameplay. I'm curious what you guys would like to see from Gotham Knights at DC FanDome here in October.
Well, I put my foot in my mouth earlier whenever I spoke up about it, so I'll let Theresa go first while I collect my thoughts.
Okay, so I want to see actual gameplay because like I said, character and story can really carry me if I'm invested in a game, even if the gameplay isn't amazing. But if the gameplay is really hard to manage and you just can't deal with it, like with the Avengers game, then I can't go forward with it. So I just really want to see the gameplay of it first of all, to get a feel for how it's going to be and if it's actually going to be fun. What I would want from either game is give me an experience like Spider-Man PS4. That was one of the most fun games I've played in a long time. So I'm probably not going to be on that level, but I'm just just give me a good idea of what it's going to be like. And is it going to be simple gameplay or complex gameplay that's really fun? And I really, what I like it is when they have a walkthrough and you not only get the gameplay, but you get some insight into the characters who are going to be the game. I want to see more of the Batman rogues. We know Mr. Freeze is confirmed, but I want to see more of the rogues, and I want to see Court of Owls is obviously the villain organization in it, but more of that, and maybe a cutscene. Sometimes they're generous with that, but just more of an idea of how it's going to be and how many more characters are going to be in it. And a solid release date, please. Do we know for sure that this game is coming out so I can really be excited? Because last year they were 2021, and I'm like, oh, that's a long wait, but okay, and it's 2021, and I'm still waiting.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm hoping. I think that they're going to do this. I'm not sure. I'm hoping that each character is kind of unique to play. They kind of indicated that in the trailer, giving them their own symbol and all that. Like each character you play might be a little bit different. But yeah, like I like it when you get something out of each character you play, and then you kind of have your character you like to choose for the game. Like this might be an obscure reference, but that was like what it was with Super Mario 2 on Nintendo for me. Like this character can fly for short periods, and this character can jump really high, and like you get something different, like a different pro and a con to each character you choose. So I'd really like something like that in the gameplay mechanics. So hoping for just a lot of gameplay and just a lot more information on it, and just to really get more than a trailer, just really a feel for how the game's going to be.
And it does look a little bit like that where Red Hood is using guns, but non-lethal guns. He doesn't kill, but he does shoot people. So I don't know how that works, but he's more of like a ranged attacker, I think. And then you have like Robin, who has a staff, who obviously is more like mid-range. And then you have Batgirl. So it's interesting. I think they are kind of going in that direction. But Jacob, what are your thoughts on what you've seen from Gotham Knights thus far, and what you would like to see from DC FanDome for Gotham Knights in particular?
I would like to see a gameplay trailer as well. I would like to see a more broader thing of what the story is going to be about. I think we pretty much know Court of the Owls is the big bad, but I would like to see a little bit more hint of the story. What I would like to see for it as a game is in 2004, I think Xbox had a video game that was based on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles show at the time. That was on Foxbox for those of us who grew up in the 90s and early 2000s. And wow. The video game was really cool. The first one, they changed it for 2 and 3, but the first one, it followed the first season of the show, and you played as the Ninja Turtles, and they each had their own individual story arc where it would pretty much be the same game, but each individual turtle had their own special bonus levels. They each had their own boss, and then if you beat all 4, you unlocked the Shredder, and you fought the Shredder at the end of the game. And I would like to see something like that, where it has like kind of those bonus things. Later in the game, the later games did it where you could just switch. So if you wanted to, you would have to use the different turtles for different scenarios, like Donatello with tech and Raphael for strength. But I don't think we'll see this with Gotham Knights, but I would like to see maybe something like that for when you choose your character. They have their own gameplay that you can follow, and then when it gets to the end, maybe they have their own boss. I have a suspicious feeling that we're going to see something similar to Arkham Knight, where when Batman would partner with Red Robin or Nightwing, and they would do that combo fight. I have a feeling we're going to see something like that, at least in the final level, just because that was I think that was one of the fans' favorite parts of the game, was getting to do those combos with those other characters.
And they do show a dual play takedown kind of in the gameplay, a little bit of one, yeah.
Oh, there you go. So maybe they will do something like that. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be really sleek and fun. I'm kind of tired of these games where where they're not fun. Like the stories are so dark and depressing. And so I really hope that with this game it'll be just kind of fun, with also kind of the serious superhero aspect of it. But whatever the case may be, I'm looking forward to it. I think we're going to see more of it, and hopefully we'll get like the final release date. It's like you said, it's been delayed like 4 times, but probably more than that. But I really hope that we get to see more of it.
Marvel's Reporter making it rain with the Q&A questions. We'll get to that in just a second. Marvel's Reporter, thank you again for sending in the super chat. And Jacob, I like that subtweet of Last of Us 2 there. I like that. You didn't have to say it. I'm going to out you, and just say that we all knew what you were talking about. But no, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. And they've been working on the game for many years now. So I'm excited. I am excited. I do have some hesitation surrounding the gameplay in particular, just because, frankly, as soon as Gotham Knights was announced, I kind of thought, you know what, this would be really cool if they just cloned or sort of evolved the Arkham gameplay. I mean, the Arkham Knight gameplay, in my opinion, is the best gameplay that I've played of any superhero video game. It's even better than Spider-Man PS4. It's certainly better than Marvel's Avengers. It's certainly better than Justice is an apples to oranges comparison, but Arkham Knight has really, really sleek gameplay, and I thought, if you just bring the driving mechanics from those, and you bring some of the free flow combat, mechanics from the Arkham series and borrow that a little bit and just sort of reskin it around the Bat family. I thought that would have been really cool. They went in a different direction, which I'm fine with. I'm fine with that. I'm not saying that, it has to be the way that they've always done it. In fact, there are certain benefits with taking these creative liberties, but I am a little concerned about the gameplay. As for the story, though, I think the story is looking really good. We just had yesterday, actually, the Penguin confirmed to be a part of the game. And one of the interesting things about the canceled Damian Wayne Batman game that they were working on earlier is that I was shown images from the game that ended up leaking about a year and a half after I saw them, but it showed like White Rabbit and all these like really weird villains. White Rabbit is like old and she has an oxygen tank and she's walking around. It's like the weirdest thing ever. And I saw that, I was like, is this fake? I don't know if I believe this. Like when somebody was showing to me over Skype, and then a year and a half later, it did leak. And that actually is what they were trying to do. They were trying to do like weird stuff and bring in like D-list villains. It wouldn't surprise me if Condiment King was like the main villain of that game with the direction they were going. But ultimately with this game, they're going back to more of the classics. Doing more of, again, Mr. Freeze. You've seen Penguin thus far. By the way, very bold decision to show a Mr. Freeze boss fight at the end of that gameplay demo, given how good the boss fight in Arkham City in 2011 is with Mr. Freeze. I would not have gone that route because immediately you kind of compare and it's like, this doesn't look as good as the Arkham City boss fight. I don't really know. But all in all, I think that with the gameplay, it's going to be... with the story in particular, I'm quite excited. Now, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. What have you guys seen of this game? And now here's the thing that's interesting before we talk about this game is that it's supposed to also come out in 2022. So theoretically, we're supposed to be getting this game and Gotham Knights in the same year, which, by the way, will be an incredible year. Glorious indeed if it ends up happening. But I have a gut feeling that Suicide Squad is going to get delayed. Just a thought. Don't know. But what do you guys think?
Does Jacob want to go first?
Nope, you go. You go ahead.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So Suicide Squad, I really have mixed feelings on because I've never been really into Suicide Squad, and you can kind of blame the David Ayer movie on that and blame the New 52 comics. It's kind of when I think I really like the DCAU Justice League Unlimited episode with Task Force X.
Couldn't say really Suicide Squad on TV.
Yeah, I can't say that. So they kind of, I felt like during that time they were just influenced by wanting to do a movie. The movie, for those of you who don't know, was in development since 2009. So it seemed like the brand was kind of influenced by what they were thinking the movie should be. So it became less of Suicide Squad and more like we're trying to make a team. Like it always has to have Deadshot. It always has to have Captain Boomerang. It always has to have Harley Quinn on it. It always has to be like this. So recently it's usually pretty dark or really badly written in the comics, I would say, especially in Rebirth. It's like they have to have a Suicide Squad comic because they really want that brand still, but they don't do anything with it interesting. Recently, though, it seems like they've really changed it up again. Like they have this like completely different roster in the comics right now. James Gunn's movie, it's not really for me. I don't like it when they go gratuitous violence for the sake of gratuitous violence. That's like with Logan, it's like it makes sense because I know Jacob hates that movie, but with Logan it makes sense because it's like, well, it's Wolverine, like what do you think it's going to look like? But James Gunn specifically is like, well, you don't have to go here, but I'm going to go here because that's who I am. So it wasn't a movie for me, but I did like things about it. I really appreciate that James Gunn finally brought Harley's red and black colors back. I really liked Ratcatcher 2 and King Shark. I thought the jokes were really good. I thought that he made me like Rick Flag. I hated Rick Flag. I just hated his character, and he made me like him. So the Suicide Squad is kind of going through a brand change where I'm not so against it anymore. But I was back when the game was released, even though the game doesn't look bad. So there's a lot I can talk about. I'll try to keep it brief. There is a little bit of a controversy I saw. I don't know if either of you have seen it, but so this is by Rocksteady, and they're saying it's like canon with the Arkham games, but people are like like fighting over that. They're like, well, no, Deadshot looks different. Batman is supposed to be dead in this universe, and this is Kill the Justice League. And they're like, how does this? Harley is a very different version, and like the Arkham games had a very specific version. It was a very goth version of the character, and it was it really leaned into the vulnerable and like mentally ill side of the character, which is why I really like that version, because that's part of what I like about the character, like the vulnerable side. This one is a little bit more in tune with the wild, independent, what they call the girl Deadpool version. You know, you get that little that's what they call her. That image of her flipping off the camera and like Deadpool does. Like she as a character would never do that before, but like when you hit 2016, this was happening before in the comics, but when you hit 2016, she started to have more of that Deadpool vibe to her. And so a lot of fans, like I was surprised, like a lot of fans were like mad because they're like, this isn't Arkham Harley. Why does she, like they're changing her up to be this new one? And I was disappointed just because like she came on screen and I'm like, Tara Strong, you can do better. You did better. You were great. And then she's just like Tina, I almost said Tina Turner, like Timmy Turner or whatever.
I've noticed that her voice as Harley is not nearly as good as it was.
It used to be like almost like I used to not be able to distinguish it between Arlene Sorkin's. Yes. Even though you can if you listen carefully, but with like Arkham City, then like I think it started in like there was like an add-on or like a DLC for like
Arkham City.
Not Arkham City. Well, I meant Arkham City, and then I switched to Arkham Knight. But there was
that was a prequel pre-order DLC pack.
Yeah, there was a DLC for like Arkham Knight where like that's the first time I heard her voice like just get really squeaky and monotone. Like she constantly is talking in a squeal, and I'm like, what's happening? And she did that with the DC Superhero Girls, and she did that with Injustice 2, and now she's doing it again. So that like instantly disappointed me as soon as I heard that, and that was really showcased in the trailer. It does seem, if it makes any sense other than the flipping off the camera thing, it does seem to be a bit more of the innocent-ish like version of the character rather than, I don't know, the Batman and Harley Quinn version, the Kaylee Cuoco version. So I might like that. It's a game where I'm going to be really interested in because it could be potentially really interesting. Kill the Justice League. Again, I don't know the status of Batman, or if this is really in continuity with the Arkham games or not. It could be an interesting story. I'm interested in how it's actually going to be because this game has been in development for years. It's still clearly influenced by the David Ayer movie because you've got essentially Will Smith Deadshot ripoff right there. You've got the Suicide Squad edition of Harley, and you've got Boomerang there. So I'm just curious of what we're going to get from the story and from the characters because it seems like a remnant of that movie and what they were trying to capitalize on with that movie rather than what's changed since then. So I'm interested in what we're going to see and how many changes might have happened to the game as they've been in development for so long, or if it's going to be like a product that feels like this would have come out in 2016. So that's what I really want to see. Again, I want to see gameplay, but I also want to get more of an idea of what the story is because it was more like the trailer we got was more like a short skit rather than an overall like why do we kill the Justice League? Have they gone evil? Like is it evil Superman again? And so I want to get more of the story. If they can, if not gameplay, at least a more of a detailed version of the story, I'd like that. Once again, not sure if it's going to get delayed again because this game has been like out in the water forever. And it was all the way in 2022, and so we'll see. Maybe they'll have a solid release date. We'll see.
Jacob,
for me, I'm excited for it. I do think it's going to be fun. I do like where they flip it. I hope they make it fun. I hope it's not going to. The trailer seemed to, or the skit, as Teresa pointed out, I does make it seem like it's going to be a fun game. I don't know what the obsession with King Shark is. He's kind of a B-level Flash villain, and he appeared in the movie Batman Assault on Arkham, which I don't know why they didn't just call that movie Suicide Squad Assault on Arkham. Batman was
I
barely
thought the same thing about that.
But they gave that one, they kind of downplayed his powers and made him more like a Killer Croc knockoff. But I don't know what this new obsession with this character is. Is he popular since the Flash TV show? I don't know. But I feel like if they were going to kill the Justice League, there are better villains they could recruit to do this. I mean, Captain Boomerang, Harley Quinn, and Deadshot don't even have powers, so that is a little confusing to me.
But they can shoot guns.
But they shoot guns, so that's good, I guess. But I honestly, it might. I still think it's going to be fun. I need to see a little bit more from it, but I think it's going to be a blast to play nonetheless.
Alrighty, guys, it is about that time. We are delving into the Q&A segment of the show. So we are going to start here with Marvel's reporter, who sent in $2 and asked, will we see WB Montreal's second DC game at DC FanDome? So for those of you unaware, WB Games Montreal, again, the creators of Arkham Origins and Gotham Knights, they are working on 2 DC video games, and the second video game is unannounced. And this raises an important question on whether or not we will see their second game at DC FanDome. I think there is an argument to be made that could happen, but one reason that we might say no is because, one, Gotham Knights isn't even out yet, so their first title's not out. And secondly, Suicide Squad also isn't out, so they have 2 games in the can that they don't want to take the spotlight off of. And what if you announce a game, let's say it's Superman, and it almost eclipses Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad, and people are just more interested in that Superman game or that Flash game or whatever they're doing? It's been leaked to be Superman, but we don't know for sure. And that could be a PR issue for them if the hype for that game just eclipses Gotham Knights, and then they start promoting Gotham Knights or Suicide Squad, and everybody in the comments is like, yeah, but where's the real thing that we want, which is Superman or Flash or whatever they're working on. So I honestly think it's 50-50. Marvel's reporter, I can't say. It seems possible, but from a marketing and PR perspective, it's probably not the best idea. What do you guys think?
I agree. I think it would be a mistake to announce it right now.
Yeah, I think they just probably just, if anything, just throw it in at the end. Yeah, we got this huge trailer, huge gameplay footage for these 2 games. Finally clarified release date. Oh, and this is the title of another game we're working on. Like, at the very least, just say, oh yeah, this is out there, but don't show people anything from it to distract from the other games they've been trying to get out for so long.
Absolutely. Marvel's reporter with $5 also asks, we need a live, or says rather, he makes the comment, we need a live-action adaptation of Under the Red Hood with Ben Affleck's Batman. That's an interesting thought. With Ben Affleck in particular, again, I have my problems with his rendition of Batman. Primarily, the killing thing is it's a deal breaker for me. I don't like it. I don't think that aligns with the character's values, and it's just not for me. But in the events of Justice League, he does kind of have this revelation, although it's not portrayed that well as people think that it is. But there is sort of the insinuation that maybe he's not going to kill moving forward, and at which point I would be interested in seeing more of that character. I will say too that the script that going back to Jacob's point, and an hour ago at this point about Jeff Johns not being involved, Jeff Johns was involved in that Batman movie. He was involved in the scripting process and the pre-production process, and it was an Arkham Asylum centered Batman movie, which just would have been really cool. I mean, we've seen little glimpses of Arkham Asylum in the films, but this movie would have really focused on the asylum. So to answer or my thoughts on your comment, Marvel's reporter, is I absolutely would love to see an Under the Red Hood sort of take with Ben Affleck's Batman, and it could kind of work because Batman is he is reformed, and he decides he doesn't want to kill anymore, and he can portray to Red Hood why he went down that path and relate to him in that sense, but also explain why he doesn't any longer. Still not as good as the original Under the Red Hood story, where Batman has not killed up to that point, and he's less of a hypocrite in trying to convince Red Hood not to kill. Whereas in this, it wouldn't work quite as well, but it is pretty interesting. But I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts on Ben Affleck's Batman, and also incorporating it under the Red Hood storyline. Keeping in mind, by the way, that Under the Red Hood in the DCEU would feature Dick Grayson, not Jason Todd, which is weird and a whole other thing.
I don't think. I honestly think if Ben Affleck had had a better director, he would have been a good Batman. But he didn't have a good director twice, so that made my faith in him portraying Batman go down. I would actually rather see them do a sequel, Under the Red Hood sequel, where we see Christian Bale and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Maybe Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, he becomes the Red Hood, and so Christian Bale comes back to Gotham to stop his rampage. I actually think that would be a more fun adaptation of the character. But Ben Affleck has put a bad taste in my mouth. I don't think Batman, even in the days when he was killing in, circa 1939, he killed exactly 4 times, I think, and not once did he have a mounted machine gun on the Batmobile. That was never a thing. That was never a thing. So,
Correct.
where there's just no concern for civilian lives, he's just blowing people away. That was even in the days when he was gunning down villains. He still had that concern for civilian life and that care for civilian life. I can only think of 2 villains when he was killing 2 where they were actually just regular people. 2 of the people he killed were undead, and the others were like these mutant giants that Dr. Hugo Strange had created. So I really that seeing that Batman with that machine gun where there's like bullet shells flying out, and at first I was thinking, oh, it's gonna be the rubber bullets like in the Dark Knight Returns. But when I was in the theaters, that's what I was thinking. But when I saw the car in front of them explode, I was like, oh crap, he's like firing real ammo.
And then he blows one up, and then he stomps over it with the Batmobile and runs it over after he blows it up in the Batmobile chase scene. It's like, dude, you just murked those people. That is unbelievable.
Yeah, exactly. So no, I would not be if I hear a Batman Ben Affleck, I will probably wait until I can see it where I don't have to give Warner Brothers any money.
That's fair.
Oh, so I'm kind of where Jacob's at, where I don't really necessarily have anything against Ben Affleck playing Batman. I just wasn't happy with how he was written and how he was directed. So when you say Ben Affleck movie, I'm not like, I'm not really excited about that like other people are. I know Ben Affleck's Batman has a lot of fans, but I personally am not really excited just because I'm not in the Snyder cut Ben Affleck Batman camp. And I'm just not sure because I've heard rumors that Ben Affleck is going to be in the Flash, or I think it was confirmed actually. But they're just very weird about how they are with the Snyderverse right now. Like they'll say it's dead, then there'll be something in the Snyderverse, and then they'll bring an actor back, or they'll shun an actor. So it's just very weird right now. So I'm not sure how I understand why the Snyder fan base, and it's a very strong fan base to its credit. I understand where they're coming from asking for these movies, but I feel for you because it's like you have reason to get your hopes up because there have been a lot of times where WB has come back to the Snyder cut, but then at the same time they're like shunning it so much. It's like you're trying to get in the door and it opens a little bit and then they slam it on you, and then you open a little bit and they slam it on you. That's kind of how I feel like it must be to be a Snyder fan. So yeah, that's not really something I'm thinking about. And once again, I'll just say the same thing as earlier. I'm like, can we get Robin to actually come in a Batman movie, or Dick Grayson, and actually build him up first? Like that's a little bit more of what I'm thinking of, because I felt like with the original DCEU, we were jumping ahead too far. Like Robin's already dead. I'm like, well, can we build him up first? It's not like we've had 5 Robins in like we've had 3 Spider-Mans. It's not like we've had 5 Robins. We've had 1 Robin and 1 pseudo Robin with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, where they never really committed. He was Robin, but they never really committed to him actually being Robin. We just got a tease at the end. So it's almost like we've only had 1 Robin, and he was, no offense, he wasn't really great. So I'm like, I would be more interested in building up Robin's character first before like doing a Red Hood story or something like that. Even though it's a very good story, the origin of Red Hood and all that, and I like that. But I'm more interested in getting other stories with Robin, whatever Robin that may be, first.
Absolutely. Let's keep it going here. A lot of questions coming in. Thank you guys all for submitting your questions. Sam Thomas asks, with the $2 super chat, what do we think of Hush for a Batman movie villain? Back to our point, we discussed this a little bit earlier. I think I know how you guys are going to answer this. Is, we've seen the Penguin and the Riddler and Joker, and we've seen them a lot. Two things I'll say. One, we've never seen Harley Quinn as a Batman villain. We've seen Harley Quinn.
Yes, we need her as a Batman villain.
Okay,
you
so
brought it up, so I will get up my sign and I will get it out there. We need Harley Quinn as a Batman villain. Okay, I'm good.
I'm glad you agree with me on this, because it's very weird how she's evolved in the last couple of years into being she's surpassed being an anti-hero. She's a full-blown hero now. Like in the Suicide Squad, she is a full-blown hero. They're literally flowers coming behind her as she's murdering people, like in the Suicide Squad. So they really praise her quite a bit. No, but I think the same thing is with Hush. I'd love to see Harley as a Batman villain, and I'd love to see Hush as a Batman villain in the films. I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts.
I would love to see it. He is probably one of the best of the modern villains. He was created by Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee, who Jim Lee, brilliant writer or artist, excuse me. And Jeff Loeb, of course, wrote The Long Halloween. The two of them brought Hush to life, and I would like to see that. I think that the if they were to do it, the comic book version origin is a little expansive. It would be hard to do a film. I did kind of like the animated version, but I didn't like how it ended. So they would have to have it, the ending, more closely aligned with the comic book. But I would like to see Hush on screen, not the Batwoman version. That was just a guy who wrapped his face in toilet paper. I want to see like an actual Hush costume with the mummy wraps and everything.
Yeah, I'd definitely be up for Hush coming into a movie. I think that some people criticize the Hush storyline. I really liked Hush as a villain, and I liked Heart of Hush. Very dark character, and be right at home with what they want to do with DC. Very dark character, very interesting. I think that there's a lot. I think that a really smart director could find a lot to do with him. In terms of villains, I would like to see Clayface. Clayface has never been done in the movies. I would love to see Clayface. Great. I would like to see a proper adaptation of Poison Ivy who isn't Uma Thurman. No offense to Uma Thurman. a proper adaptation that we're not going to get right now because Poison Ivy is messed up right now. We won't get into that, but we are not going to get a good adaptation of her right now. So I'm like, no, don't do it. So to what we were talking about earlier, if Harley was ever appearing in an actual Batman movie, I would die as a villain. I would die happy. But here's the movie that's like my dream movie. I would like them to do a movie about her origin story, similar to the Harleen book that came out. And I would like to have Hugo Strange there and Jonathan Crane, and you have the doctors at Arkham there, like in the history, which was in that book. And you're able, because we're set in Arkham as that story, you're able to see a lot of different Batman rogues. Maybe, I know it would technically be another Joker story, like it's Mad Love, it's Joker again. But you could have Calendar Man there. You could have Clayface. You could have so many Batman characters, and just go to all the obscure Batman characters. Oh, who's one? I'm blanking on the name.
Dr. Phosphorus.
Yeah, there's like
Firefly.
there's like a really
Man-Bat.
There's like a Man-Bat, Tweedledee, like he's a character who takes apart things and puts them back together. And one day he took apart his grandmother and went to Arkham. So that was a Batman villain. I'm like, you can have a lot of really obscure, interesting Batman villains coming in. Maybe not as the lead, but that would be, it's kind of like with an X-Men movie or a Marvel movie where you just kind of have a toolbox there, and all of a sudden all these characters exist. And they can be there and they can come back for other movies, and you have that as kind of an introduction where it doesn't have to be just like, okay, maybe we'll slip in 2 Batman villains in this movie or 1, but then, my dream is just to have a Batman universe where all the villains can kind of come in and kind of just exist and maybe get a little bit of their time. So yeah,
we don't need the origin for everyone. Just bring them all in.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I completely agree with everything you guys said there. Marvel's Reporter with the $2 super chat. Injustice 3 at DC FanDome. I'll answer this really quickly. There's not much of a discussion to have here, but basically a report emerged last week that I covered on my channel that NetherRealm is likely developing Mortal Kombat 12 before Injustice 3. So in all likelihood, we will not see Injustice 3 at DC FanDome. Unfortunately, I think the higher probability of a new DC game to be unveiled would be the second WB Games Montreal game, which even that I feel is fairly unlikely. So I wouldn't bank on Injustice 3 or any new DC game announcement. I think we're going to see more of the games we're already excited for, namely Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad, but I wouldn't expect much beyond that. Thank you for the $2, Marvel's Reporter. Bring on the Entertainment Podcast. $4 super chat says, "Sup nerds, would love to do another show with you, Slickvoff." Absolutely, man. Anytime. Just just hit me up. I'm free. I'm down. Thank you for the super chat. Bring on the entertainment with $2 said, "Oops, had a typo." I actually didn't notice your typo. You said Slickmoth with an I instead of an L. Okay, I noticed that. You know what? I honestly wouldn't have noticed if you didn't say anything. But thank you again for the super chat. Secret Kingdom sends a $5 super chat and asks, "What do you guys think of introducing and expanding more absurd characters in Injustice 3, like Batman's daughter?" Well, okay, again, as our prior discussion, this might not be the best time to talk about that game because it seems like it's not going to be happening for several years, probably 2024 to 2025 at the earliest. My gut is I'm not a huge fan of your proposal. I think that the slots for characters is fairly limited. These fighting games tend to not have any more than 30 characters. So I would be pretty salty if like Condiment King or somebody, even though he'd be funny to play, he would have to presumably take a slot of somebody like Blue Beetle or somebody like Robin or somebody. So my gut on that is no, and that those spots are very limited. And but I don't know. I see your point. I don't know. Do you guys have any strong opinions on this?
I like the Injustice games. I don't. They've already introduced Hellboy and the Ninja Turtles into those games, so
Which
I don't
you're
really
a Ninja Turtles guy, aren't you? Aren't you a fan of that?
Yeah. But
so
why
did you like that?
Injustice? No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Like that.
Okay.
Like,
okay.
Why are they? If it was like a standalone, kind of like Batman Ninja Turtles, I could see it, but to me they felt out of place in Injustice specifically. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Hellboy could have worked, but he wasn't part of the main storyline. I think, I actually don't think Batman's daughter is a ridiculous character. For those unfamiliar, she's from Earth 2, where Batman had a daughter with Selena Kyle. She's Helena, and she becomes Batwoman in Earth 2, and then she comes to Earth 1 for a while, and she poses as the Huntress because the original Huntress is in a coma or something like that. So, I don't think she's a ridiculous character. I just had to get that in there as well.
Fair enough.
Well, so I have a complicated relationship with the Injustice universe. So I like the first game. That was one of the first DC things I had, like the Injustice mobile game, and I loved that. And I was fine with the story. Injustice 2 disappointed me on a story level and a gameplay level, and I'll just keep it brief and keep it to gameplay. So gameplay, it looked amazing, and like they blew it up with like these really huge cinematics, like when you get a power up, which by the way is very easy to get. They really went all out on the cinematics of it, but the gameplay is really repetitive to me, and I play that with my brother, and like we do 3 matches and I'm like, okay, I'm done, because it's like it's the same thing over and over again, and he can easily beat me if he chooses a certain character. I can easily beat him on a certain character. I know which character to choose if I know I'm going to beat him by. So it's like just very repetitive gameplay, and I wasn't really interested in the story. Part of that was the first game. It was a weird story, but they brought in like regular versions of the characters to be kind of your protagonists in the game coming into a really messed up universe. And in Injustice 2, it's all the messed up characters. So it wasn't as fun. And I'm like, the Injustice universe, I don't think is really that intriguing or
I agree with that.
fun beyond the initial premise. The initial premise is pretty shocking, but it only goes so far. In Injustice 2, I'm like, I'm done. And people keep talking about 3, and I'm like, I don't really need a 3. I could stand another DC fighting game. I'd like them to do better on the mechanics of it, so it's a little more fun and it's not so reliant on just the spectacle of it. If you were to have a DC fighting game where like you and one of the things that didn't keep me going with Injustice 2 is there was really nothing more to unlock. It's like you get gear for your characters and you can play dress up with them, and I didn't like that as much. But if you made a DC fighting game where like the goal, and I'm obsessed with these characters, like the goal is, and this is, I keep interrupting myself, this is why I like the Injustice mobile game. Like you could get Cassandra Cain, Batgirl, and you could get all these different characters with it. Like if you have a DC fighting game with really good gameplay, and like some of the goal is the more you fight, the more things you unlock, the more you get to these like characters who might be really big or they might be really obscure. You could get the White Rabbit character, you could get Cassandra Cain, or you could get Huntress. Like if there was a game like that, I'd be down for it. It's just with Injustice, I'm like, oh, no more Injustice. I'm tired of Injustice. I know other people disagree. DC fan base is very divided with opinions, but I'd be down for a game like that. I'm just not as thrilled with the Injustice universe.
That is fair enough. I agree with everything that you said, actually. Hey, guys, if you haven't already, make sure that you are subscribed to Theresa and also Jacob. Their links are in the description below. Theresa, her channel is Jesterbell, and Jacob's channel is Studio Jake. Both of those linked down below for you guys to go ahead and subscribe over there. More questions in the queue, starting with Country Boys. What are you most hyped for and why? Spider-Man No Way Home or the Batman? I think we're kind of comparing apples to oranges, literally Marvel versus DC, but also one film is the first film in a trilogy, and with Spider-Man we're ending a trilogy. You know, that's an interesting question, though. I'm going to be honest. I'm very excited for Spider-Man No Way Home. I think it looks great. I'm excited to see what they do. I love the creative liberties that they're taking. They're taking risks. They're going for it. I've had my critiques of the film primarily with more minor things, more nitpick things that people pretend are like huge things, like the suit. I just don't like it. I think it's dumb, but people on Twitter get really offended. But broadly speaking, I'm all on board with what they're doing. I think it looks great. The Batman, again, I have concerns around it. And it's also tricky because I am such a huge Batman fan that I'm inherently more critical. Whereas Spider-Man, I'm a little bit more willing to kind of let it fly and see what they're doing. But all in all, I'm a Batman guy at heart. I'm more excited for the Batman film. But that is not to downplay. I am very excited for Spider-Man No Way Home. It's one of the most anticipated superhero films that I've had in the last 5 years. Really, it rivals some of my anticipation for Infinity War, Endgame, and Batman v Superman. I was super excited for those films, and I'm feeling that same level of anticipation for this one as well.
I have to say I'm more excited for Spider-Man No Way Home just because it's something that we've never seen before, and it's kind of, I said this on my channel, it's kind of like a first Avengers or like Infinity War, where it's something that has been done in the comics, having different universes collide like this, but we've never seen it done to this extent in the movies. And so that's why I feel like it could be something really fresh and at the very least exciting. The Batman, I do have those reservations about it in that it's kind of a repeat of the same sort of things. And so it's not fresh, and it's got some casting and some decisions that I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about it. So even though I love Batman and who knows how the movies could turn out, I got to say just Spider-Man is the one that I'm a bit more interested just because it's fresh right now.
For me, I'm withholding my judgment until I see if they drop a new trailer for the Batman. But I will say, Marvel is a cut above with their trailers. They even made Thor: Dark World look like an amazing film. And of course, it wasn't. But the trailer is incredible.
It is.
And so I'm going to withhold. So right now they're tied. I got to be on. And Batman is my favorite character. He's the only reason I even read DC. I'm more of a Marvel person, but Batman kind of keeps me grounded in the DC universe. So, but right now I'm kind of even. But I think if they do release a new trailer for the Batman at DC FanDome, that will determine which one I'm more excited for.
Which they definitely will. Oh
yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I'll be curious to get your thoughts on how you're feeling about that once it drops.
Yeah, for sure.
Secret Kingdom with the $5 super chat. What do you think of a crossover between the DCEU and the Arrowverse that they team up to fight the crime syndicates? That has already happened, and I don't want to see it ever again. What do you guys think?
I'm done with the Arrowverse. I've
Me
heard
too.
Superman and Lois is good. A lot of people aren't watching it because of people are just done with the Arrowverse, and so am I. And I haven't watched anything since I think Flash season 4 is what really turned me off of the show. And now they're going into season 8, even though no one wants to watch the Flash anymore. So I'm done. I'm curious to see what the DCEU evolves into next. But the Arrowverse, I'm like, just put it to sleep. I don't need to see any more of the CW Arrowverse. And I'm kind of astonished to see how long it's gone on and how much longer it's going to go on. Like, I'll just see a post about it and I'll be like, oh, that's still going on? Like, Legends of Tomorrow still exists? Like, so yeah.
I never really got into the Arrowverse. I watched the first 3 seasons of Arrow, and I want to say it was around then you could tell they were just trying to make Ollie Batman, because at the time when the Arrowverse first started, they couldn't bring Batman in because the Nolan movies were still going on. But then when the opportunity came, they gave us Batwoman. So and which is fine. She's a great character. Even the Kate Kane version in the New 52, and the DC Rebirth, I like Kate Kane. Nothing against her personally, but it was just a misfire with how they presented it. So whenever I realized that they were just turning Ollie into low rent Bruce Wayne, that's when I started to lose interest. Green Arrow has a ton of his own story arcs that they could have adapted into the show, but they did the whole thing where he gets trained with Ra's al Ghul, and he even does the tournament that Bruce Wayne fights, where he fights nonstop for 27 hours. Someone told me they replicated that in some way, and instead of Talia, they introduced Nysa al Ghul, who's one of Ra's al Ghul's other daughter, for those who don't know. And I was kind of like, I see where this is going. They're just turning Arrow into Batman because they can't have Batman, and that's when I was kind of like, I tapped out. Never really got into the Flash. Legends of Tomorrow just looked boring to me, so I never got into that or any of the other shows. I think Batwoman at one time was its own thing, but they've merged it with Infinite Crisis. They merged it into the Arrowverse. Never got into that, or Supergirl. I think I watched like 3 episodes of Supergirl, and I was just like, I can't do this. It's just Ally McBeal with Supergirl.
I watched the first couple of seasons. There are some decent moments in it. It is okay, not great. But yeah, back to my prior point. Like, it's really tough to do a lot of these characters on a low budget, on a shoestring budget, and that really started to show in the Arrowverse, especially as the budgets got smaller and smaller as time went on, and you could tell on the Flash they literally just put him on a treadmill for a lot of scenes with the green screen, and it was so obvious and terrible. So I totally agree that they definitely have issues to address there, and frankly, I've kind of checked out from that universe. And speaking of reboots, if we're talking about rebooting the comics, I would love if they rebooted the TV universe altogether, just started from scratch, nuke it all, put it down to ground zero, and then put it all on HBO Max and start with the new higher budget shows. That would be incredible.
I would agree with that.
They won't do it though, because they're gonna milk the Arrowverse until everything's out of it, and that's...
Well, Arrow's gone, so they have to change the name. Because it was kind of funny because when Arrowverse got canceled, people were joking, when is he going to appear on Legends of Tomorrow? Because that's what happened with Constantine, right? His show got canceled, and so they just moved him to Legends of Tomorrow. Well, I actually think it was a couple of years prior to that show appearing, but still, it was kind of funny. But then now the actor who plays Arrow, he's on a new show now. So I think it's called Heels, where he plays a wrestler or something like that. And he's making a sequel to a Netflix film he did. So, yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
Interesting. Bring on the Entertainment Podcast, $5. Cool stream. Definitely want to do another show with you. Thank you, man. Sorry, you sent that before I had a chance to read the first one. But, yeah, we can definitely do that anytime. So, guys, I've kept you for 2 hours. I don't want to keep you too much longer. I think this is a good time to wrap up. But thank you both so much for coming on. As I said, guys, if you haven't already, subscribe to both of them in the description below. Studio Drake and Jester Bell, their channels are linked down below. Go subscribe. Ring the notification bell on their content for more of their takes on the DCEU, MCU, video games, all that fun stuff. DC FanDome is coming quickly, or about a month and a half away, and I'm sure we'll collab again soon once we get more information, news, and reveals at DC FanDome. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this stream, once again, give it a thumbs up. It will be up as a VOD for you to watch. Thank you to the almost 10,000 people that have tuned in across the length of this stream, and the hundreds of you that were here live as we were streaming. I really appreciate it. Had a great time. And Jacob and Theresa, thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I had one thing to ask before we signed off.
Please do. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So I have a new short film I'm releasing on Wednesday. It's the first one I've ever done with a movie camera, and so I just wanted to wonder if I could get a shout out, if we could, like, because I'm gonna be promoting it. I'm gonna be putting out like a promotion for that on Monday. So I just wanted to put that out there. If you guys would be able to help share it, and people share it with their friends, I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, tell us about it. What was the what's
so
the premise?
I did like 2 like horror films, but they were like, I was just doing it with my iPod just to practice a little bit of shooting.
Okay.
And practice a little bit with that. So I wanted to do a drama. So I did one called Insecurity, which is basically someone is living in their house and this another person is tormenting them and they have to try to escape somehow. So like it's just like a drama I did, like just about like a personal struggle, but I put it out there, and like I you know, I was proud of the writing. That I guarantee the cinematography is not great because I'm just learning right now. But I submitted it to a film festival. The film festival got hit with COVID and barely accepted anyone, so I didn't get in. But it's going out on YouTube, and I really want everyone to see it. And like I keep doing these short films. I do horror, I do a little comedy, I'm doing a drama. So if everyone could just give it a shot, give some feedback, share it around, I'd really like that.
Yeah, guys, to catch your short film on Wednesday, go ahead and subscribe to her channel, link down below, and turn on the notifications for her channel that's hitting Wednesday. And also follow Jester Bell on Twitter and Real Jacob Airey on Twitter as well. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed the stream, once again, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, ring the notification bell, and make sure that you're here for the next stream. Going to try to be doing at least one stream per week going forward. And guys, on DC FanDome, I will be doing an all-day marathon stream with a bunch of special guests dropping in and out. Some of which a couple I already have confirmed. Some big name guests that I don't want to reveal quite yet, but it's going to be really fun. So I'll see you guys then at the DC FanDome stream. Until then, also recording a couple of videos today. I have a video coming out about a Batman Arkham video. I also have a Gotham Knights video coming out and a video about the Batman that are coming out all this week. So make sure your notifications